the Srimad Bhagavatam. We are in the second canto, chapter 5, the cause of all causes. And we are on text 5, and we'll do text 6 today. But I was thinking, because we have two different verses, we can do one of the verses we'll recite call and response here in the temple. The other verse, devotees on Zoom, they can do verse number 6. So text number 5. This is Narada Muni speaking with his father, Lord Brahma. Atmam bhavasyasetaani.
Atmam bhavasyasetaani.
Na para bhavayan swayam.
Na parabhavayan.
Atma shaktim avyastabhya.
Atmashaktim avyastabhya.
Urnanabhir ivalklama. Atman bhavasyasetaani. Na para bhavayan swayam. Atma shaktim avyastabhya. Urnanabhir ivalklama. Atman bhavasyasetaani. Na parama bhavayan swayam. Atma shaktim avyastabhya. Urnanabhir ivalklama. Please chat.
Atma bhavayasetani.
Atman bhavayasetani.
Na parabhavyana swayam.
Na parabhavayan swayam.
Atma shaktim pritibhya. Atma shaktim
Avyastabhya.
avyastabhya.
Atma shaktim avyastabhya.
Urnabhiri vakyam.
Urnanabhir ivaklama. Atma bhavayasetani. Na para bhavayam swayam. Atma shaktim avyastabhya. Urnanabhir ivaklama. Atma bhavayasetani. Na para bhavayan swayam. Atma shaktim avastabhya. Urnanabhir ivaklama. Atma bhavayasetani. Na para bhavayan swayam. Atma shaktim avyastabhya. Urnanabhir ivaklama. Atman bhavayasetani. Na para bhavayan swayam. Atma shaktim avastabhya. Urnanabhir ivaklama. Synonyms. Atman, Atmani,
Atma,
by self. Bhavayase,
Bhava,
manifest.
manifest,
Tani,
and
all those.
all those.
Na,
Na,
not.
na.
Parabhavayan,
Bhava,
being defeated. Swayam,
Vaya,
yourself. Atmashaktim,
Atma Shakti,
self-sufficient power.
self-sufficient power.
Avastabhya,
Avastavya,
being employed. Urna Nabi,
Purna, Nabi,
the spider.
Spy,
Eva, like. Aklama,
Atma,
without help.
Buddha.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. As the spider very easily creates the network of its cobweb and manifests its power of creation without being defeated by others, so also you yourself, by employment of your self-sufficient energy, create without any other's help. Purport. The best example of self-sufficiency is the sun. The sun does not require to be illuminated by any other body. Rather, it is the sun which helps all other illuminating agents. For in the presence of the sun, no other illuminating agent becomes prominent. Narada compared the position of Brahma to the self-sufficiency of a spider, who creates its own field of activities without any other's help by employment of its own energetic creation of saliva. We're going to do the next verse, text number 6. I'll chant it, and we can still do the recall and response, but then we'll let the devotees on the Zoom do the call. Naham Veda Param Yasti Hasmin Na Param Na Samam Vibhu Namarupa Gunhirbhavyam Sat Asat Kinchit Anyata Naham Veda Param Yasmin
Veda param yasmin
Na Param Na Samam Vibhu
naam vibhu
Namarupa Gunhirbhavyam Sat Asat Kinchit Ananyata.
Kinchidanyada.
Devotees on Zoom, if you'd like to chant.
Naham Veda param yasmin na param na na param na samam vibho
Na param na samam vibhu
nama rupa gunerbhavyam
Namarupa Gunhirbhavyam
sad asat kinchid anyatah.
Sat Asat Kinchit Anyata.
Naham Veda Param Hyasmin
Naham Veda Param Yasmin
Na Param Na Samang Vibhu
Na Param Na Samam Vibhu
Namarupa Gunhirbhavyam
Namarupa Gunhirbhavyam
Tat Asat Kinchit Anyata.
Sat Asat Kinchit Anyata.
Naham Veda param yasmin
Naham Veda Param Yasmin
na param na saman vibho
Na Param Na Samam Vibhu
Namarupa Gunair
Namarupa Gunhirbhavyam
Sadasat Kinchitanyadha.
Sat Asat Kinchit Anyata.
Hare Krishna. नाहं वेद परं हि अस्मिन्
Nam Veda Param Yasmin.
न परं न समं विभो
Na Param Na Samam Vibhu.
नामरूपगुणैर्भाव्यां
Namarupa Gunirvabhyam.
सद असत् किञ्चिद् अन्यतः
Sadasarkinchidanyata.
Hare Krishna. Naham Veda Param Hi Yasmin.
Nam Veda Param Yasmin.
Na Param Na Saman Vibho.
Na Param Na Samam Vibhu.
Nama Rupa Gune Bhavyam.
Namarupa Gunirvabhyam.
Sadasat Kinchid Anyataha.
Sadasarkinchidanyata. Thank you all for chanting. Na,
No.
do not.
Do not.
Aham,
Aham.
myself.
Myself.
Veda, no.
No.
Param,
Param.
superior.
Superior.
He, for.
All.
Asmin,
Asmin.
in this world.
In this.
Na,
Na.
neither.
Neither.
Aparam,
Aparam.
inferior. Na,
Na.
nor. Samam,
Samam.
equal.
Equal.
Vibhu,
Equal.
O great one. Nama, name.
Name.
Rupa,
Rupa.
characteristics.
Characteristics.
Gunai,
Na.
by qualification.
Qualification.
Bhavyam,
Bhavyam.
all that is created.
All that is
Sat,
Sat.
eternal. Asat,
Asat.
temporary.
Temporary.
Kinchit, or anything like that.
All.
Anyata,
Anyata.
from any other source.
So many others.
Translation. Whatever we can understand by the nomenclature, characteristics, and features of a particular thing, superior, inferior, or equal, eternal, or temporary, is not created from any source other than your Lordship, though so great. Purport. The manifested world is full of varieties of created beings in 8,400,000 species of life. In human society, the human being is considered to be the superior living being. And amongst the human beings, there are also different varieties: good, bad, equal, etc. But Narada Muni took for granted that none of them has any source of generation besides his father, Brahmaji. Therefore, he wanted to know all about them from Lord Brahma. Om Jnana-timbarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Umilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So these two verses are a glorification of Lord Brahma by his son, Narada Muni. And he's being glorified as self-sufficient. That basically all of creation is basically coming from one source, and that source is Lord Brahma. And the chapter, the title of this chapter is The Cause of All Causes. And we're about to enter into, we're starting to enter into the topic of the creation of this material world. I was walking down the street on Market Street yesterday, and I walked by, coming back from our Harinam, and there was the Jehovah's Witnesses. They have a really nice setup. I don't know if you've ever seen them. They have like a book stand, but it's on wheels, and it just kind of opens up, and they have their books and pamphlets that they have to pass out to people. And they always have this kind of a catchy phrase that sits on top, and it changes. I've noticed it changes. I don't know if it's every month or every couple of weeks, every season, I'm not sure. But it has something that makes you think as you go by. And yesterday it was, is every being created? Something like that. Are beings created? Is every being created? Is everything that exists created? And then question mark. So as you're walking by, you think this. You're thinking about creation. What is the source of creation? And then it gets your attention, and then you may go over and say, either ask them a question or get one of their pamphlets. Now, their pamphlets, from my understanding, a couple devotees that I knew used to be Jehovah's Witnesses, and they converted to Krishna consciousness. And they say they're actually very diligent in creating their pamphlets. And this is a big part of their sadhana and their outreach, is to generate new publications. And they're pamphlets. It's not like they're generating books, but it's pamphlets, maybe 10 pages or so. Watchtower, it's called. And it's generated on a regular basis. Again, I'm not sure if it's a couple weeks or every month. And in that pamphlet, it addresses the question that they are putting up on their stand. And as if it's constantly rotating. It's not the same all the time. Certainly something we could definitely learn from, and maybe someday be able to apply it in our preaching. But it made me start to think that, are all things created? And the question is, it all depends from what perspective you're looking at. From the material perspective, yes, all things are created, and that everything has a beginning and has a source. And that source is Lord Brahma. And Narada Muni is recognizing that the source of everything that we know is actually Lord Brahma. From the spiritual sense, this idea of creation doesn't have the same value as it does in the material world. In the material world, we see everything has a beginning, a middle, and an end. We can date the time that we were born, and we can date the time that a person dies. And then all these activities happen sometime in the middle. We can recognize when the sun rises at 6:57, and it's going to set at 4:43. And we can put a clock to that, and we can measure that. We know when we order a carpet, we know the date that it's manufactured, and the date that it's shipped, and the date that it's delivered. And then we all can also say there's a date when it eventually goes in the trash and gets thrown away at the dump. Everything has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And we also understand that there's a creator for everything. And we've established this in many of the classes previous to this. There's always a creator. Nothing just appears. This carpet just doesn't show up here one day, all sewn together. The clothes we wear, it went through a manufacturing process, and somebody harvested the cotton, planted the cotton, and then went through the manufacturing and distribution and then shipping, and then to the sales, and then from the sales somebody purchased it, and to the point where we actually are wearing it now. There's a whole process to it all. There's a whole intelligence behind it. And in this material world, the topmost being is Lord Brahma. And Lord Brahma is the source of all this creation. He's the mastermind. He's been empowered by Lord Krishna, by Lord Vishnu, to do this service of generating and populating and producing all of the material elements the principles and execution. He's in charge of that, and he distributes it through different agents of this material world, the various demigods, the progenitors, Prajapatis, those that originally populate this material world. But we can trace it back to he is the source of the creation. From the spiritual sense, we find from the Bhagavad Gita that actually we don't have a beginning and we don't have an end. But this only applies to those things that have that are of the material energy. Those things are our bodies, our minds, our false ego, our intelligence. Earth, water, fire, air, ether. But on the spiritual sense, Krishna tells Arjuna in the 2nd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. We can recite this verse. It's an important verse together. Najayate mriyate va karachin nayam bhutva bhavita va nabuya ajo nitya shashvato yam purano nahanyate hanyamane sharire. For the soul, there's neither birth nor death at any time. He has not come into being, does not come into being, and will not come into being. He is unborn, eternal, ever existing, and primeval. He is not slain when the body is slain. Unborn, eternal, ever existing. Never was there a time when he did not exist. Never is a time when he will not exist. He does not come into being. That being always exists. So from this perspective, are all beings created? No, not the soul, not the spiritual energy. That is not being created. And we live in this paradigm where we are eternal spirit souls, but we're living in a paradigm where everything has a beginning and an end. And therefore, Krishna tells us that you'll never find true happiness in this world, because that which the soul is natural for, that what it thirsts for, that what it is searching for, is that of eternality. But it's contained in a world which has a beginning and an end. And the body goes through the different processes. It's born, it grows, produces some byproduct, begins to dwindle, gets diseased, and then eventually dies. But the soul doesn't go through those changes. So when our desires become unfulfilled in this world, whether it's due to the circumstances of this world or just by its very own nature that it's limited and temporary, the soul will never become happy. So but Krishna creates this material world because the soul wants to be able to experience thinking a life different than Krishna, where Krishna is not in the center, where perhaps we could actually be the enjoyer, where we could be the controller. Knowing that this actually is not a possible outcome, because the soul, by its constitutional nature, is a fragmental part and parcel of Krishna. It is eternally connected with Krishna. Qualitatively the same, quantitatively different. And therefore can never actually fulfill its needs separate from Krishna. So Krishna has to create this illusory world in order for us to believe that it can be true. So he goes through all this effort of the primary creation, because from Lord Brahma, who is the secondary source of creation, who Narada Muni is glorifying as you are self-sufficient, everything is coming from you, Lord Brahma has a source. And that source is Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. And from Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, there's another Vishnu, which Garbhodakshaya Vishnu comes from, and that is Karnadakshay Vishnu, or Mahavishnu. From Garbhodakshay Vishnu, from the navel, Lord Brahma comes. So Lord Brahma has a source. And we find this from the prayers. We just chanted them during greeting the deities. Govindam Maripurusham Tamaham Bhajami. So this is Lord Brahma speaking. This comes from the Brahma Samhita. These are prayers by Lord Brahma glorifying Krishna at the dawn of creation. And from the beginning of Lord Brahma's day, he begins to meditate and pray. Before he begins his service of creation, he prays to Lord Krishna. And what is he saying? Govindam, you're the Adi Purush. The Adi means the beginning, the first. And Purusha means the controller. So he's saying, you are the original controller. Even though I'm about to do this service of creation, you are the original. And from you, I come from. So there's a verse in the third canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, 9th chapter, 23rd verse, where Lord Brahma is speaking about his mentality at the time of the beginning of his day, before he begins his service. And I said he offers prayers to Lord Krishna, and he says, "O Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead is always the benefactor of the surrendered souls. His activities are always enacted through his internal potency, Rama, or the goddess of fortune. I pray only to engage in his service in the creation of this material world, and I pray that I may not be materially affected by my works, for thus I may be able to give up all false prestige of being the creator." So this is Lord Brahma's prayer. I'm about to engage in this service. Please don't allow me to become puffed up. Please don't make me think that I am the creator, because I know ultimately all my energy comes from you. And then he begins his service. So this is very instructive for us, because we are, as far as our consciousness is concerned and developed, we are so far below the ability and consciousness of Lord Brahma. And the things that Lord Brahma is able to do compared to what we're able to do it can't even really be, the magnitude of it it'd be Jai Shishi Gaurnitai ki Jai, Jagannath Baladev Subhadra ki Jai, Shishi Radhashar Bihari ki Jai. The magnitude is so vastly different. Yeah. One day of Lord Brahma, 4.32 billion years for us. One day. So you can just see his life compared to our life. His life is 311 trillion years of our years. So one day, 4.32 billion, and one day is 12 hours. 12 hours he sleeps. So that's 8.62 billion. And then there's 360 days in a year, and then there's 100 years. So when you calculate that out, it's 311 trillion years. So if you want to make the comparison to us and Lord Brahma, it's just on a vastly, it's almost unimaginable. When people use the word infinity, these are the type of things that people think about. You can't really contemplate this. It blows your mind. But what blows your mind even more is that Lord Brahma, compared to Mahavishnu, his lifetime is one breath, the inhalation, the exhalation and inhalation of Mahavishnu. So he exhales, the universe is created, Lord Brahma is created, and this 311 trillion years goes on, and then he inhales, and it all comes back in again. And this inhale, exhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale goes on and on and on and on constantly. But yet we're sitting here thinking, okay, 3-4 minutes have gone by, 5 minutes have gone by, years gone by, 6 months have gone by, lifetime. What is the comparison? So when Lord Brahma is sitting here, we should take advice from him before he begins his work, his service. He's praying, please do not allow me to become puffed up. I am not the controller, you are the controller. I'm only executing the service that you have given me. Now please bless me so that I can do this service for your pleasure. And we can also think this way. Sometimes we fall victim to the consciousness that I'm the controller, that I've done something very special. And sometimes we get glorified for that. We get appreciated for that. Mataji, you cooked a wonderful feast. Or you maybe have created something. You did a wonderful festival. You created this. This whole thing is happening because of you. Now, just like Lord Brahma, there can be some truth to that. There's some truth to the fact that, yes, we made an endeavor. And we tried the very best we could to make a nice offering to Krishna. But the source of our energy, the source of our ability, Krishna says, I am the ability within man. I'm the strength of the strong. From me comes knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. Our intelligence is developed, our buddhi, only by the will of Krishna. We're dependent beings. We're not independent. So when Narada Muni says to Lord Brahma, you are independent, well, there is some creative energy that he has, that is given to him. But there's a limitation to that. And as great as Lord Brahma is, he's recognizing his own limitation. And we'll see this as this chapter and other chapters unfold. So this is what we can take away, that we may have some ability to perform, act in this world, and we should pray to Krishna for his pleasure, that our actions are pleasing to him. And Krishna, please give me the strength, please give me the intelligence to act in the right way for your pleasure, to make the right decisions, to whatever I'm able to do with my mind and my body, make it pleasurable to you. But also have this prayer that please don't allow me to think that I am the creator, the controller. Please do not allow me to become overwhelmed with false prestige, because it is only an illusion. This is Krishna consciousness. Thinking of Krishna as the center of our activities and our source of energy, and wanting to dedicate our activities to Lord Krishna. Okay, I'll stop there and see if there's any comments, questions, or reflections from the devotees. Hare Krishna. We'll first start with the devotees in the temple room, and then we'll go to those that are online. Yes, Satak Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Like, even though we are on this people, we have policies, the right to false people. But sometimes, like, we have to appreciate the for whatever they have done. Like, for example, if they have cleaned the floor, we have to appreciate that you have done something. So, but in this verse, you have seen that with Brahma tells don't let me get fucked up. So like, why we have to like we should appreciate devotees for the work they do. And how like someone says that
You popped up. Okay, so yes, thank you, Prabhu. So Satak Prabhu from here in the temple, I'll repeat it quickly for those that are online. He's saying that we want to be guarded against being filled with false pride and prestige. At the same time, we're also taught to appreciate devotees for their services. So how do we do that in a way, if somebody's appreciating us, so that we don't get filled with false pride? So we'll address that real quickly. One, we should never seek out appreciation ourselves. So if our motivation is to get recognized, to be appreciated, then the motivation needs to be corrected. If that is the source of our ability to get up and do something because I'll be recognized, somebody will appreciate me. Lord Chaitanya, Nadanam, Najanam, Nasundarim, Pavita Vagisha Kamaye. I don't desire, wealth. I don't desire fame. I don't desire beautiful women. I don't desire, it's I don't desire. I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. So our motivation should not be this. So if we're clear with that and somebody then comes and gives us some appreciation, we can receive that appreciation and offer it to Krishna, offer it to the spiritual master. In one sense, it's true. Yes, I've taken some of my time. I've taken my body and mind and I've engaged it in the service of the Lord. And it is common courtesy to be able to recognize and appreciate, encourage. And in this way, that is also a devotional service, by encouraging and recognizing the good qualities of a devotee. For ourselves, we should never be attached to this, but we should look to give appreciation to others. And even when we give appreciation to others, we should also do it in a very honest way. We should not go overboard and say things that aren't true, because then it won't be true appreciation. And this will also help cut back on the ability to help produce false pride in somebody. But we should guard against it. We should be aware of it. So the first part is be aware of it. And then when we're aware of it, we can know when it may creep in to our lives. Yeah. But if we don't appreciate, because we're afraid of becoming falsely proud or producing false pride within somebody, then we're not necessarily acting on the level of Krishna consciousness. We're just trying to avoid a situation. Now, there may be times when a person may just have an issue, and they're really falsely proud. So, and it may be very apparent. So that then a person who's in the position of a spiritual guide or authority may actually have a situation where they don't give any appreciation to a person. And that is just to kind of break down their false ego. I had one situation, I'll share it with you quickly, with my spiritual master, His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj. And he came to Philadelphia, I think it was back in 2001, and he was doing various preaching programs. And I was really looking forward to coming and serving him. And the whole time, and I thought, maybe I'll get some time and he'll give me some appreciation. He'll give me a little encouragement, spend some time talking to me. And the whole time, he was just fully engaged in service. And he was meeting with so many people. But not once did he hardly ever give me any attention at all, other than to say, come get me this, come get me that. And my false ego, I was thinking, I worked really hard to make these programs, and I was calling people up and setting up arrangements, and I wasn't the only one, but other people were involved too. But I was thinking myself as the creator, the controller, the doer. And he treated me like he should have, like a servant. He was my spiritual master, and he was just engaging me constantly. But I'm thinking, again, out of false pride, why am I not getting any type of love? And he's showing all this, what I perceive to be love. He was showing me love, but just not in the way that I wanted to receive it. But in the way he was showing other people, he was hugging other people, laughing with other people, talking with other people. Dronacarya, get me over this. Dronacarya. And by the end of the weekend, Monday morning came around, I just felt like I was just so beat down. I had hardly any sleep. And I remember it was cold out. It was sometime in February. And it had to be 30 degrees outside. And I got ready to leave. And I carried his bags outside. And again, he was just nothing was there. He was showing me any type of what I was looking for, this reciprocation. And finally, I packed his bags in the car. His driver got in. And I remember I was so out of it, I was just standing out there in a t-shirt. It's freezing out. And then he says, "Why are you out here in a t-shirt? Don't you have a jacket? You should be wearing a jacket." Yes, Maharaj, I'm sorry, And I get down and offer my respectful obeisances to him as he's getting ready to leave. And then he rolls down the window and he calls out my name and he just smiles. And then he drives off. And just that little bit of a smile. He knew what he was doing, and he saw the effect it had on me, and he knew it was for my betterment that I would come out, because I had all this false pride. So there may be situations where a person has false pride and it may come up. And then Krishna arranges through the spiritual master, through the devotees, to beat it out of us. And when that happens, we should also be able to receive it, knowing that it is for our betterment. Within, of course, there may, situation by situation has to be evaluated, but that's the principle. And we see this also with Krishna. The same Lord Brahma, right? He has the Leela with him. We just read about it in our Krishna book reading, where Lord Brahma falls under this illusion. And he doesn't recognize Krishna as the supreme controller, and he tries to play a trick on Krishna by stealing the cowherd boys. And then Krishna ultimately pulls the trick back on Lord Brahma. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Yes, Vishal Prabhu.
So sometimes our motivation comes in a way of getting appreciation. Right? We wanted to do more because we want to be that appreciated by whatever it is. It's one of the motivations. So to do good things, we have that motivation in a way, but on the other hand, we are also told not to be appreciated, don't seek out for it. So it kind of contradicting in a way in my head.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when we start devotional service, it's not pure devotional service. And if you have to look at it on a scale from like 1 to 10, and you have a needle pointing to 0 and to 10. You know, when we start off, it's, 10 is pure devotional service. There's no material motivation behind it. And 0 is just like, I'm just doing this because I want some result from it. And, I'm not even really thinking about Krishna. I'm just thinking about what I can benefit from it. We usually start off in need of something, and we think that maybe it can come through the spiritual process. But then gradually, as we, under the guidance of a spiritual master, under the guidance of devotees, under the guidance of scriptures, by regular attendance in classes on Srimad Bhagavatam, by performing devotional service, by chanting Hare Krishna, by going on Sankirtan, by eating Krishna Prasadam, attending the temple programs, our consciousness begins to change, and we realize that actually Krishna is the center of activities. And that if I'm able to serve Krishna and not necessarily worry about my own self-interest so much, actually I'm a lot happier. And that philosophically, this is what actually makes sense. Krishna is the root of the tree. By serving the root, actually the whole tree becomes nourished, as opposed to, trying to manage all the different individual parts. So then that needle starts to go and change, and starts going from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, So yes, in the beginning, there is this motivation that is there. As we mature as devotees, as our devotional creeper begins to grow, begins to ripen. And this again comes in the good association of devotees, hearing the instructions and advice, watching the examples of the spiritual masters. This all becomes clear. And then it becomes the point where this is what I desire. I desire this pure devotional service because I realize all my material desires actually are creating nothing but obstacles and problems in my path of coming to Krishna. But it takes some time. But we should be diligently wanting to progress. So seeking appreciation and giving appreciation are two different things, to directly answer your question. We should want to give, but also seeking is not, something that we want to embark upon as a principle. It may be there. Who is it? The author of, How to Make Friends and Influence People, Dale Carnegie. He basically says this is how you can become successful in the world, is by recognizing this one quality within everybody, is that they want to be appreciated. And if you can just know how to master the art of giving appreciation, you can basically make friends and influence, people all around the world. That's the rules that the material energy, governs under. As devotees, that shouldn't be our motivation of wanting to, be influenced by other people's appreciation. And therefore, we offer it back to the spiritual master. We accept, okay, somebody's appreciated. I've given my time. I've given, some service. Naturally, that will feel good that, there's some, recognition of activity, that's been done, some recognition of sacrifice. But whether that's there or not should not determine whether I can continue. Yeah. Hare Krishna. Anything, Mother Sita?
To Sarthak's point, also when you appreciate somebody, it brings humility. That also kind of gets rid of your false pride a little bit, especially someone who don't have a good relationship with that sort of thing. If you have to go to appreciate that, definitely.
Good. Thank you, Mother Sita. She, just for those online, she mentioned that when we appreciate people, it it's very healthy for us because it humbles us. We have to recognize the good qualities in somebody else. And if we're struggling with that in our lives, especially maybe somebody that we may have had, some trouble with in relationships, it allows us to elevate our consciousness to the point of appreciating and not finding faults. And that brings about humility within our lives. So a healthy amount of appreciation and, will bring about humility, which is a quality we want to cultivate as we progress in our devotional lives. Mother Golokananda Priya.
It's more of a one of the platform of your devotional service. Some appreciation is needed in human nature.
Yeah.
Sometimes what is,
Yeah.
to appreciate what they're doing.
Yeah.
I know personally, like maybe you're not proud and maybe appreciate it. Some certain time, okay, this feel fun. Something you devotion service, feel high, something different. All kind of desire, material desire. You come to that level that somebody appreciate you and don't appreciate you. And generally, there's appreciation, they'll motivate you to do it.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Thank you. Mother Golokananda Priya, she's saying that we're humans. We have these material bodies and we have these material minds, and we're not. If we're not acting on the platform of pure devotional service, that appreciation is oftentimes needed for us to continue and advance. Not necessarily that it's always just puffing up our egos, but we just need some element of recognition and appreciation that I have some value, and that's also very, very legitimate, and we should consider that in our relationships with each other and with our devotees. And a little bit of appreciation oftentimes can go a long way. Appreciating people for coming to the temple, appreciating people for serving, appreciating the pujaris and the devotees for their care of the deities, appreciating the devotees that do the kirtan and devotees that are chanting in the kirtan. We can go on appreciating devotees, and this is very good. It's a very good habit to come to. The flip side is finding fault in the devotees, and that's the part we want to steer away from mostly.
You get rid of all the envy, you appreciate so
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
When people get caught up, I should appreciate everything. I appreciate someone what if they get both sides. Well, you have to start at ourselves. You have to think about us. We need to humble ourselves. Giving it back, I'm really not doing a service to myself because I'm not humble.
Yeah. I like where this class is going. The class really wasn't about appreciation, but the devotees have, or else I would have prepared more on this topic. But the devotees have brought this here, and I think it's a very good place to be. I want to bring up, when I talk about steering clear of the desire and the motivation for appreciation, I'll give you another kind of antidote from that. We used to, as a practice, announce all the people in the Sunday feast. We used to have a lot of people cooking the Sunday feast. And sometimes the list would get long. It would grow, like 10, 15 people were somehow had their hands in cooking the Sunday feast. So-and-so and their family, and so-and-so and their family, and so-and-so and their family. And a couple times we would miss somebody. We didn't know that they came and spent 20 minutes to, roll some puris. It didn't get mentioned, right? And it was a big deal. I mean, they were offended. I don't know if we're ever coming back to this place ever again, And these were devotees. These weren't like, first timers, these initiated devotees, So this isn't healthy, right? If we're looking for the 3 Haribols, everybody raise their hands and chant Haribol for this person. And this should not be, we should not be that affected by it. Yes, we should understand this point very clearly, that our allegiance to Srila Prabhupada, his mission, our spiritual master's instructions should be more fixed in our hearts than whether somebody announces our name, over the loudspeaker at a Sunday feast. Or maybe they unintentionally, didn't call your name, but called somebody else's name who may have been junior to you, or called their name before they called your name, or, we can't get wrapped up in this. This is an important point.
Serving Krishna, Yeah. People,
Yeah. So we actually had we discontinued this because it was like, you can't get everybody, and if somebody's going to become that disturbed by being left off, we're not going to do that. And we just give one blanket Haribol to everybody, Let's see if anybody online would like to mention anything. I know Rikshit Prabhu, my god brother, I don't know if he's still on or not, but he's very like this.
Hare Krishna, peace and stuff on humble obeisances, all glory to your Prabhupada. Very, very, very nice lecture. Just taking in everything that you said, and also, the comments made by the devotees and the questions and so on. Yes, Lord Brahma, and when you talked about Govinda, the Purusham, I'm actually giving class tomorrow also. So there's so much connection from what you're saying to what I'm preparing for tomorrow. I don't have any questions. It's just a very nice flowing class that you gave, and there's so much to learn from it. Lord Brahma is, of course, when we have your Sampradaya, Brahma Gaudiya Sampradaya. So, Lord Brahma is very important to us, and how he's led his life, including some of the things that he did that we would consider mistakes. But of course, we've been told he's worked on the Yoga Maya too. So there's so much to learn from his prayers. There's some more prayers that maybe I intend to talk about tomorrow by the mercy of Guru and Gauranga, again connected with Lord Brahma. But this was very nice for me. I'm hearing and kind of seeing what to do next to tomorrow's lecture. So thank you very much for everything you said, and the devotees too. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Anybody else on Zoom? You have a question or reflection? If not, we can conclude here. Thank you all for your attention and your contribution. You really made this class lively with your questions, so I appreciate that very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna.
Kalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhubhya cha pattanam
Vaishnavim More